session, and then tomorrow morning you wash it, and another chapter or a piece thereof is written, and you learn it by heart.
So when I was away from home, I think I was constrained to behave myself because there was nobody to rescue me. So I was behaving myself. As I said, I became a class monitor, I became a junior prefect, I became senior prefect, I became a head boy.
You know, boys will be boys. You will transgress on occasions. You will be late for school, refuse to attend lessons sometime, go out to play, and that will be severely punished. Whoever did that will be punished. And the teachers were, I wouldn't say harsh, but they were disciplined. They taught us discipline. If you transgress, they lash you.
There was discipline in schools then. There's corporal punishment. And I think to a certain extent, it molded the minds of the children and so on and so forth.
Our generation was very lucky. Our teachers were absolutely committed and dedicated. And they treated us like their own children. If you do well, you are praised. You are brought before the classroom, your work was shown and you are praised. If you don't perform, you are again brought before the classroom, stripped and flogged on the buttocks. And there is no way I can forget school, because what we call the teacher I see there, called Malam Abdul, is a very strict person. And he doesn't spare the rod. We call it Bulala, really. We don't like the rainy season approaching because we have to go to school farm. You wouldn't be late there, just like a classroom. And if you are late from 6 to 2, Bulala on your buttocks. And you have to remove your shorts so that you get the message proper. Among the teachers, I could only again remember our Arabic teacher. No matter how hot it is, he comes in with a turban. And every week we are given to recite part of the Quran. Every week. And the only thing we can do to avoid it is to report sick if we haven't recited the part given that week. So we report sick. But even if you report sick, then you are stopped from going to a breakfast break until you recite the verse you are given in the class.
I'm sure you didn't get too much Bulala because you were always like a leader in class.
You will be very surprised. I got a lot because I try to avoid going to the school farm. And if you miss it, you are not allowed to go on breakfast break. So you will have no break until the school is closed. But what I do between the first whistle and the last one, I go over the wall of the school, rush to home, and sometimes I'm eating up to the time I'm going to the classroom. And no way one could forget those days. Trying to be clever by half.
How did a boy from Daura end up in Liverpool, straight out of secondary school?
I was picked from here, and then the whole of the north, again, I was the only person picked to go to UK, recommended to go to UK, Elder Dempster line. well, some slots for children from each region, from the north, from the west, from the east then, and from Lagos. 4 of us were taken, and that's how I managed. You can see the system then. Here in Katsina province, we are the junior part. And handsome, healthy, and then I reflected a street back here in Katsina on my school days. When I'm going to the mosque on Fridays, blind men, cripples, leopards, people in rags begging for what to eat. So I say, God, how can we understand? That impression is still there in me. You look at people coming out as if they made it up themselves. Very well dressed, handsome. Underdevelopment is terrible. That's the only thing I can say.
He was interested in science at the time. He was thinking of becoming a doctor. You know, he was born in 1942, you know, sort of the end of colonial era in Nigeria. They didn't really have a medical school yet at ABU. It turned out not to be a career path for him, although it was an interest. When he was finishing up secondary school, the Emir of Katsina, who was the neighboring Emir to Daura, was encouraging young men from the north with leadership potential to go into the officers' training.
The Emir of Katsina then, he sent Hassan. It was no longer a profession for the poor. My height was a disadvantage to me. Then there were cadets only in government colleges. Zaria, Kepi in the north, I don't know how many in the south. The provincial secondary school, which was my school, they were not given army cadets. But the Emir of Katsina wanted to make a case to late Sardauna that he wanted a cadet school, a cadet in his secondary school in the state. So the Sardauna told the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister told the Minister of Defense. And then Katsina had a cadet, and then a retired ex-World War II veteran from Katsina was made to be in charge of the training. Just because of my height or something, I was picked to be the sergeant. So from there, I was impressed by the military discipline and so on. So when I left, I just went straight to the army.
And he was very attracted with the idea of uniform, discipline, and extracurricular activities like night exercise and drills that attracted him very much. And he was eventually, plus he had a few friends like Sheikh Yaradua, may God have mercy on him, and Jega, Emir of Gondu, and Magoro. They were his classmates, and they all started, so that the hard instinct also had an influence in his decision to join the army. And he has never regretted it since.
It must have been something for him. I mean, he went into the army to be a soldier. Then there was a political crisis, the coup and the counter-coup, then the civil war.
This is where the value of fighting for country comes in, because at every point of his military training, he was taught, you know, you fight for your country, you die for your country, and you do it with honor. And so the idea of splitting the country it just sent shockwaves through these people. Even though they knew some of these counterpart officers on the other side, they never saw it as Buhari never saw it as an Igbo thing, as an ethnic thing. He always saw it as the rebels and the attempt to split the country.
His battalion, the 2nd Battalion Nigerian Army, he was number 2 in the battalion. They were the first to fire shots. A battle in which they were advancing and the opponents, the rebels, shot at them, and the fellow on his right was killed, the fellow on his left was killed. But he was unscathed. It was dreadful, dreadful. I was so afraid reading the dispatches to see the casualties, and I always pored over the casualties to see if his name was involved.
The Biafran Civil War was one where you didn't know you were going to survive. They were hacking their way through the rainforest, which was very different than the dry savanna in the north. And his men had to be sure to take health precautions, change their socks, not get fungus in their feet and things. So he was always concerned with the welfare of his men. I think even his critics would say this, that this was a young officer who took his leadership seriously.
And if I tell you that I walked across Nigeria from Benue State virtually up to the sea when we were fighting the civil war, the 30 months of the civil war, I was always in the front within the small arms range for the 30 months. I was never relieved. But when I was sent to India and the United States subsequently to do my training, people were saying, why always Buhari? But when I was being sentenced to the front, nobody asked, why didn't they bring me back to their headquarters where they have time to drink and dance? This is Nigeria.
There was a bloodless coup today in Nigeria, which is Black Africa's biggest and richest nation and the world's 8th largest oil producer. The overthrow of strongman Major General Yakubu Gowon.
Fellow Nigerians, events of the past few years have indicated that despite our great human and material resources,
So, how do you met the then Colin Buhari when he was governor of the Northeast?
Way back in the early 70s, or mid-70s, I was a young student, aged about 18, 19, and he was then governor of the Northeast. He was military governor of the Northeast, and I was a young student activist as the Secretary General of the Students' Union in the then Northeast College of Arts and Sciences. And when Murtala was killed, I led a delegation of students to protest the killing of Murtala, demanding that the coup plotters be brought to book and be tried. Well, he was quite a very serious-looking military officer, and my impression of him was that he was somebody that was destined for the future to become an effective leader in this country.
General Shehu Yaradua, may God bless him, may Allah have mercy on him, told me how Buhari was made Minister of Petroleum in Obasanjo's government. They set the group who were naming ministers and governors and so on, and they said, who is the most honest and the most serious among the officers of the Nigerian army? The one with the most integrity, and they honed in on Buhari. So they appointed him Minister of Petroleum, and they all thought he would not get his hands dirty with oil money.
fraud, indiscipline, corruption, squandermania, misuse and abuse of public office for self or group aggrandizement, which had assumed debilitating proportions in the last few years, will be dealt with ruthlessly, no matter whoever may be involved.
It wasn't easy in the sense that I noticed a lot of things were going wrong, personally. People were looking for office just to be materially endowed or empowered. I thought it was wrong. I think leadership is a sacrifice.
It was clear to the senior officers, including Buhari, that the junior officers were going to do something if they didn't. And the junior officers were taking their cue from next door in Ghana, where Jerry Rawlings had just taken over, a young flight lieutenant in the Air Force, and lined up and shot the previous senior military people who had been ruling the country. So the senior military people in Nigeria thought, we'd better stabilize the situation. We don't want another, Jerry Rawlings situation here.
Buhari was not terribly keen. He wasn't terribly keen about it, but there was nobody to lead the change of government, nobody with the credibility and the integrity to, to convince the country that a change was necessary. It wasn't his choice.
We need to emphasize self-discipline and leadership by good example. Begin by drawing public attention to little but important everyday manifestations of indiscipline, such as
try to impose discipline on the country. So it was a kind of a culture clash between military culture and the Nigerian grassroots culture, if I may say.
The night of the coup, you were with him, right?
I was in Lagos, and we had dinner, and then we talked until about 11 p.m. Then I went back to my digs. We had no idea, no inkling whatever, something was afoot. In the morning, one staff came and told me, look, there has been a change of government. Your uncle has been deposed. The coups in Nigeria have a history of being very violent and very bloody. So I pray to God that they don't kill him or injure him or something of that nature.
The people who know him well said he was aware, but the only way he could have prevented it was to execute, 6 or 8 of the senior officers, and he wasn't willing to do this. I think he prevented a more serious situation, because when you start killing officers, who knows where it's going to lead. Now he's down in Benin. He's under house arrest. He's living in a cottage with guards. He figured that if Babangida wanted to kill him, he would be dead by now. So it was really a question of just marking time and using it to realize, well, this is the end of his military career, and it was possible for people to visit him, but only with the permission of General Babangida, who is now in charge.
He was detained for 3.5 years. I went to see him regularly every month in Akure and in Benin. Very restrictive, and it's very boring, and he didn't know what eventually the government would do with him, and he was only released on the death of his mother. But throughout, I think his spirit never for a moment broke, because So many people gave me messages to tell him to say, please write to Babangida and tell him, since he has taken over, let him go. He said, no, I'll never write to him. I'll never talk to him. His spirit never broke throughout the 3.5 years.
Even though Jonathan Abacha was part of the military elite that toppled his government, out of patriotism, to save the government, he accepted to serve as the chairman against the advice of many of his close associations. He said, no, it is not about Abacha, it is not about toppling of the government, it is about the country. We need to save this country. We need the infrastructure has decayed. So he accepted the chairman, and quickly he assembled some professionals, largely young men, and we went into work.
If you go down even to our hospitals to check, if you see linens that are curtains, shielding the beds, besides the few procurements, you will see PTF inscribed. If you see the roads today and you go through from north to south, there hasn't been any corner you will go through without seeing the project of the PTF. If you see hospitals with equipments, basically even in the theaters today, you will see that you will have the little, inscription of the PTF.
Nearly every week, some delegation from different parts of Nigeria were coming to see us in Kaduna, saying, look, you have to come and take care of have to come and lead this government. We're drifting. We're going back to the 1983 period. And he resisted this for a long time until both political parties sent emissaries to tell him that if he wanted, they will give him the ticket to run for the presidency. He succumbed to the pressure.
On Thursday, 26th of April, 2002, we went to Daura, where he registered as a card-carrying member of the then APP, which is the second largest party after PDP at that time. I think it was 1,145,359. Yeah, that was his number in the APP.
I received a phone call, and they said I should help them look for a vice presidential candidate. That's Christians from the South. We couldn't make any headway, and we decided to lay down. Until January 15 at 12 noon, I received a phone call from the general. He said, I prayed my own way, and I want you to pray. I would like you to be my running mate. My first response was, thanks, but no thanks, sir, because I'm heading a group, and I've given them my word that I will neither join partisan politics or seek an elective office. But even within the group, they said, you have been positioning us for days. We are now saying you must take this. Long story short, by the time I called, Pastor Adeboye called everyone, contacted this and that, the rest is history. I had to team up with him to become his running mate. And it was such an experience that I cannot forget.
Character, credibility, competence, integrity, those are the issues. And by the grace of God, 2011, we will have a new president.
all the three elections were rigged, massively rigged. Let me give you an example. 2007, after our lawyer made his submission to the Supreme Court, I went to his office and I asked for the results of just one of the states. He gave me results of Imo States. I went over carefully over the results, and then they just say, PDP, that's Umar Yar'Adua, 25,000. Buhari, 5,000. Round figures throughout, round figures. The winner of the election, Umar Yar'Adua, himself said the elections were faulty, if you recall. After you won in 2003, rigged. You won.
So when this thing happened in 2011, it was worse than what had happened in 2007. It was worse than what had happened in 2003. So it is this thing, it is not the bitterness that he lost that worried him. And then he said, well, it will appear now nothing is going to change this thing. It's like, well, it's a country of over 150 million. I have tried my best. I have made my own contribution. My contribution is not recognized, and surely it's better to keep off from this.
This is his eldest daughter, Magajia. She suffered all her life with sickle cell disease, and then a confluence of events. A few days with the announcement, she also died. So that shook him very much. But I would say that the death of his daughter shook him more than the loss of the election.
There is what they call sickle cell anemia. There are people who are SA, there are people who are SS. So I think when the developed countries found about this sickle cell disease, they tried to stop marriage between AS or SS so that they don't have this sickle cell anemia. My first wife, my late first wife, unfortunately, I think she is SA or AS, and I'm AS. So my two children, my first daughter and my first son, happened to be SSS, and they died of it. It was hard, but when I gave to my second wife, I asked who introduced her to me that she must be AA, so that if my child picked the S from me, he could only pick S from A from her. So AS is not normally susceptible to the anemia.
So in 2013-2014, you decided to team up with the other opposition parties. How did that come about?
The PDP. We are so confident that nobody could remove them. And I think they just ignored even being careful. So we persuaded the other parties. The CPC, Congress for Progressive Change, which I was leading, the ACN from Southwest mostly, ABGA from Southeast geopolitical zones, I said, until we came together, there was no way we could remove PDP. I persuaded them. They agreed. Aswaju, Tinubu, from the north, from CPC, this was myself, and then from the southeast, Abga, Rochas Okorocha. So we got people from various parties to come together.
Now you had a strong opposition party, but you almost got killed before the election.
I think Kwankwaso was very generous. He gave me an armored vehicle, a Land Rover. He said I should be using it because he believes that the competition I am going on, I think there are people who really wouldn't like to compete with me. They would like to eliminate me. I said, okay. So I had to go to Kano, and I was using that Jeep. And a vehicle near the secretariat, federal secretariat in Kaduna, wanted to overtake us. My escort stopped them. But before we go on that overhead bridge, which was parallel to our filling station on the right as you are leaving Kaduna for Zaria, they just below the thing. And when I looked, I saw the pieces of human beings. People who are being blasted by the bomb. The chap we were traveling with in the car on my left was thrown on my left because the bag, you know, the crash bag which the vehicle have, some of them, the one on my side was blown. The one on his side, I think, was not blown, so he was thrown on my left. And when I looked, I saw blood on my trousers and on my gown. But none of us, the two people in the vehicle and two of us behind, 4 of us, none of us were injured. But somehow I saw blood because of the number of people killed outside and because of the bomb. And I came out, I was concerned with the dead people, but some people stopped our vehicle, pushed me inside and drove me home. And that was the end of it. That's how efficient the Nigerian security agents are up to today.
Of the All Progressives Congress presidential primary, General Muhammadu Buhari retired.
Throughout the campaigns, and we went around in buses a lot, you know. We traveled from state to state, you know, and I recall in particular, we were at I think it was in Zamfara, where we saw these young people, and this always happened, of course, pressing themselves against the window of the bus that were traveling, you know, shouting, say, Baba, you know, Baba, Oyoyo, and all of that. And he said, look at the faces of these young people. He says, the expectations are high, very, very high. He says, and they expect us to do magic the moment we get into office, you know. Look at all of that.
Here in Kaduna, we voted for General Muhammadu Buhari, not because he's a northerner or a Muslim, but because we believe he's going to bring change. He's going to stop the insecurity, the corruption, and the callousness and the impunity.
That Muhammadu Buhari of APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law and scored the highest number of votes is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
I, Muhammad Buhari, do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that I will preserve...
Well, don't forget that I tried 3 times. 2003, I think 2007, and 2011. And I ended up in Supreme Court 3 times. The first time, I went to address the pressmen and some Nigerians that were very curious. I was expecting sympathy, but the group laughed at me. So I said, okay, God day. And God sent technology. With permanent voters card, PVC, it's very difficult, to do what politicians used to do in Nigeria.
Well, some of us will claim credit to the fact that we are popular, but key is the character of our candidate. First, his character was essential to salvage the country. The country was in so much crisis, financially, security-wise, in every ramification.
This is the victory that is completely due to the support of the people. The normal elites, those who normally decide things, were all against this movement, and it came to victory. And I knew the country needed Buhari, and it has got it now. It is one of the best moments in my life. I didn't know I was going to be part of the government, but the fact that Buhari has won was just enough for me as a cause for happiness for this nation.
I remember that very, very day when the announcement was made. He from his office in lobby to upstairs, he came down to my office, and I look at him, in the very, he was looking in the ceiling in very pensive mood. After some 1 or 2 minutes, I said, sir, I would not like to congratulate you. I would rather pity you. He said, thank you. Thank you. So we went out, back to his office.
He is a man of inflexible integrity. He is also a very simple man, a very religious man, and also dedicated to Nigeria. If he has political views, is that Nigeria together is the best for all the peoples.
He's a man of his words. He's a man of honor. He's a man of courage. He's a man of uprightness. He's a no-nonsense man. He has never, for once that I know him, done anything that will advance his selfish interests, either for himself as a person, for friends, for family.
He believes in the ultimate goodness of each and every Nigerian, including those of us who work with him. Yes, he will discuss challenges with you, but ultimately he always believes that you will do the right thing.
Muhammad Buhari, he listens a lot. He is not too much in a hurry to take decisions, and he is also very considerate. So Nigeria is a very complex place. You need to take measured decisions because every decision you take will impact on the lives of people. So, but he is a very, very thorough leader. There are so many adjectives you can use to describe Buhari, but truly, he is a leader whose time has come, and he has led this country very, very well.
Under no circumstances, the leader will probably be sending his people or be asking you to do this for him. Buhari has never sent anybody to me in the last 7 years to do anything for him or for the person.
I've had the privilege of serving 7 Nigerian presidents in my public career. The styles of leaderships are different, the circumstances are different, but as a boss, he gives you the resources to do your work. You can say anything about him or his policies, but nobody doubts his integrity and his commitment to ensure that public resources are very well managed, and that he cares about all parts of the country, including those that may not have voted for him, conspicuously not voted for him in several elections that he has undergone in this country.
His driver took me from his house to go to Governor El-Rufai's house. And when we got to El-Rufai's house in Kaduna, his driver said, "Daddy," he was referring to me, "I'd like you to pray with me." I said, "I beg your pardon." He said, "I call you Daddy." I said, "I do not pray the Muslim prayer. I can only pray for you as a Christian." He said, "I'm a Christian. I'm a member of Ekwa Church and I'm born again. I've been driving him for 10 years. This is the 3rd or so electoral process that I've driven him." I said, "You are a Christian?" He said, "Yes." I prayed with him. That was very shocking to me. Second thing that I received as a shocker, a serious shock, we did the first flag off in Kaduna. It was such a mammoth crowd. And if anyone we pushed that day, there would be a serious stampede. And then after the flag off, we got to his home. And he staggered. And he said, "Jesus Christ of Nazareth." I said, "Excuse me, sir?" Because I would have said, "Is that a swear word?" And he looked at me and said, "Pastor, you don't have monopoly of Jesus Christ." I said, "Okay." I calmed down, I left it. Then we were in Abuja. And early morning I was going to his hotel apartment, Presidential Suite at Transcorp Hilton, and I met his bodyguards at the door. And one of them said, "Good morning, sir." "Good morning, Daddy." I said, "Why do you call me Daddy?" He said, "You are our grandfather, actually, because our pastor is your son in the faith. We go to Lighthouse." And I said, what kind of a man is this? Never at once try to hinder my faith or to try to say, to be irritated by me. And all around him, a cook and this and that were Christians.
So how do you cope with Abuja if Daura is noisy sometimes?
No, Abuja, I'm effectively protected by security and COVID-19. You see? Security wouldn't allow people to be seeing me. They said because of COVID. So I am thanking the security and COVID.
Where do you find the energy? You'll be 80 in December.
Yes.
You walked from the mosque today. You walked almost an hour now. So where do you find this energy? I mean, I'm younger and I'm tired.
Yes. If you are a village man like me, I think you would have been stronger.
There's a crazy one that was going around at one time that you are not Buhari. Did you hear about that one?
Yes, people said I'm somebody from Sudan. They even mentioned the name. I didn't bother. Nigerians, when they don't understand things, they create their own mysterious way of explaining themselves.
Does it help that you have your sense of humor to find those things funny?
No, it's not funny because those who are advocating or who are making those statements, they just want to be cheeky. They want to distract attention from the main issue. Our main issue is do the infrastructure, make people aware that they need to work hard to live well. They just can't enjoy life without earning the respect of their communities and so on.
After you leave the presidency,
yes,
what are you going to miss the most about the presidency?
I wonder if I'm going to miss much. I think I'm being harassed. I believe myself that I'm trying my best, but still my best is not good enough, because there are people around that think that they can intimidate authorities to get what they want instead of going through established systems, and earn whatever they want to earn. There are still people who behave, who are clever by half, let me put it that way. When I left secondary school, I came back here. This is my base. Coup, counter coup, civil war, coup, counter coup, detention. I have gone through it all.
Hello and welcome to the newsroom. Here are the stories we're following at this time. I am Folashade Ogrinde. The United States chapter of the All Progressives Congress, APC, has condemned the proposed political demonstration that will be held by some Nigerians in front of the White House on Monday. The condemnation is coming a day after authorities in the United States granted permission to supporters of the Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi, to use its park on April 3rd to protest the outcome of the 2023 presidential election in Nigeria. The permit also allows only 100 protesters to converge at the iconic Lafayette Park in Washington, D.C. for just 4 hours. The People's Democratic Party, PDP Working Committee in Benue State has suspended the party's executives in Igorov Ward, Boko LGA of the state. The PDP acting chairman, Isaac Mfor in Benue, announced the suspension of the ward executive members on Thursday while speaking with journalists in Makurdi, the Benue State capital. According to the SWC, the ward exco members were suspended for 1 month, pending when necessary action will be taken to restore the party's harmony, law and order. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, has arraigned Eyumoga Moses, an officer with the Nigeria Correctional Services, Nasarawa, over job racketeering. Moses, a superintendent with Nasarawa State Command of NCS, was arraigned on a one-count charge of corruption for allegedly collecting 800,000 naira from a couple for 2 vacancy slots at the Federal University, Lafia, Nasarawa State. The defendant has, however, pleaded not guilty to the charge and was ordered to be remanded at the Nigeria Correctional Service in Makurdi, Benue State until he meets the bail conditions. New Delhi will ramp up testing for COVID-19 and encourage the increased use of masks after India recorded its highest daily case count in nearly 6 months. According to a statement by the Federal Health Ministry, India recorded 3,016 new coronavirus cases in the last 24 hours, its highest daily case count since October the 3rd. The Health Ministry also issued an advisory asking people to wear face coverings if they have flu-like symptoms and in hospitals. In business, Nigeria's total public debt stock, consisting of domestic and external debt stocks of the federal government of Nigeria and the 36 state governments and the Federal Capital Territory, hit 46.25 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2022. The National Bureau of Statistics made this known on Friday in its Nigerian domestic and foreign debt report for Q4 2022 released in Abuja. The report revealed that the nation's public debt grew by 4.96% in Q4 2022, while external debt stood at 18.70 trillion naira in the same quarter of 2022. The United Kingdom has agreed to join an 11-country Trans-Pacific Trade Pact as it looks to deepen ties in the region and build its global trade links after leaving the European Union. United Kingdom Prime Minister Rishi Sunak on Friday has said Britain had agreed to join the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership in a move his office said was the biggest trade deal since Brexit. The CPTPP is a successor to a previous Trans-Pacific Trade Pact that the United States withdrew from under former President Donald Trump in 2017. The ECB's Cricket Discipline Commission has cleared former England captain Michael Vaughan of all charges of racism and discrimination. The decision of the three-person panel, which met to hear the case in London this month, was announced on Friday. However, 5 former Yorkshire players who all withdrew from the disciplinary process have been found liable for a breach of ECB directive for the alleged use of racist and discriminatory language. And that's it from the newsroom. Many thanks for watching. Do join us at the top of the hour for more stories. I am Folashade Ogurinde. Bye for now.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues. The Osun-Osogbo Sacred Grove in Osogbo, Osun State, southwest Nigeria, is one of the last remnants of primary high forest in southern Nigeria. The site, a natural habitat that has been preserved for over 400 years, has served as both a pilgrim point as well as a tourist center for millions of people who visit the site annually to worship and celebrate the Osun goddess that is believed to inhabit the river that runs through the grove, giving the water the ability to heal and grant wishes of its believers.
Osun Grove happened to be a site that we all refer to as a living site. It's a living site just because activities that have been carried out over the years are still performed the way it used to be then. And secondly, it is a site where the worshippers do come to perform every 5th of the day, which means 5 days. They do come. For example, in churches, we go to churches during the week, but on Sunday, we christen it to be, we go to church on Sunday. Likewise, the Muslim goes to mosque on Friday. So that's why the fact that the devotees do come interval, but they have a 5 day, which they call Ojose. Aside this, the uniqueness of this site is the name Osogbo was derived from this site. The appellation of the king was derived from this site.
From the entrance, one could feel the tranquility that comes with the well-preserved forest. A little further down comes another feeling of an elevated being's dwellings. This is the Osun-Osogbo Sacred Grove, one of the last sacred forests in Nigeria, along the banks of the Osun River, just outside the city of Osogbo, Osun State, southwest Nigeria. In this forest of 75 hectares of undisturbed areas of land, no residential building is allowed, no killing of any kind of animal, no fishing, no hunting or felling of trees.
Apart the fact that this is 75 hectares of the core zone and 47 hectares of the buffer zone. It's one of its kind in sub-Saharan Africa, and second UNESCO World Heritage Site in Nigeria. The kind of people or crowd that comes around, one will be marveled, why this? But it is a festival and a river that people believes in. Because of the sacredness, you can't cut a tree, you can't fish. And if you are not a devotee, there are certain activities you don't do so that you don't blame yourself.
The one path that cuts right through the grove is lined on either sides with sanctuaries, illustrations of traditional Yoruba deities, and primary high forest. Adekunle Olatunji is the curator and site manager of the grove that has existed for over 4 centuries. On a tour of the sacred forest, Olatunji describes how the name Oshogbo came about and what the grove stands for.
At Ipoleumu, some kilometers from here is in Iboku. There's an hunter. It's not just an hunter that going to the bush to kill rat, or is a big hunter that hunts for elephants, bigger animals. In one of his sojourn, then from Ipoleumu looking for where they can get water, they now got to this site. On getting to this site, he was astounded. We were looking for almost a 40 kilometers from here, looking for water, still large water here. So he decided to go back to inform the king. My brother, we are hunting, I got to his place and I saw this river. So the hunter then was Oguntimeyin, while the king then at Ipoleumu is Laroye. So the two of them came down to the site, seeing what they wanted. So they decided to settle down at the bank of the river. So in one of their trying to rent the tent, a tree now fell into the river. And a voice came out of the river saying, "Eyoma darling, you have broken my time, but 84 kokwaro." So the two of them were so shocked. Who is this person? Simultaneously, the spirit now answered, "Oshogbo pele, Oshogbo brother, Oshogbo pele, Oshogbo." That was when they knew they are in Oshogbo. Literally meaning Oshogbo. So now, they now felt, what is the next thing to do? In Yoruba then, something strange happened, you do divination. During their divination, they wanted to know what's happening. So the Babalawo now said, Oshun dwell here. You cannot stay with Oshun. So they moved from the bank of the river, moved up. They now built a hut. That hut today is what we call the First Palace. And there's these promises between them that we said we should leave this place. As a powerful person, they felt, how will somebody in the river be telling us to leave? So if we are to leave, what will you do for us? And I said, okay, if you are to leave, I will make you prosper. There is no war that will conquer you. Do my bidding, and every year there must be somebody from your lineage to come and bring object of appeasement to me every year.
But the grove wasn't always this beautiful and serene. In fact, there was a time it was completely infested with termites until an Austrian artist, Susan Wenger, and her husband Uli Bayer arrived to save the sacred monument. Wenger devoted some 50 years of her life to preserving the forest, and with the help of local craftsmen in the city, she transformed the sacred grove into a sculptural garden with compelling artworks and objects of habitation. Because of them, this 200 acres is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
When Mama started with the Oshun Groves, she started at the area we call Ayedakun. Ayedakun is also part of the groves. Our first 2 sculptures are still there, where we have Obatala and Yemo. And she did that, not in one place, At the main shrine, Ebu Yamako, and inside the forest, there are the sculptures there that she made. And Mama would do the heart with meditating, you know, like communication with the deity before doing any form of art. And Mama got her inspiration, you know, from there because she stayed there for a while.
She was invited to come and see or assist us in treating this termite attack. In doing that, she now fell in love with the culture. So she is so powerful and mystic that if she sleeps, revelations of what she is expected to do for this place will come to her. Then she now felt, for somebody of her status, there's a need for her to have people to work with. Then she now got in touch with the Oba. Then there and then some interested indigenous that were into art then were introduced to her. So that was why they formed what we call a new sacred art movement. With this new sacred art movement, from instruction from her, that's why we have all these structures.
Shaded by a canopy of trees with a flight of stone leading downwards, the inner grove lies within a natural depression, marking the exact spot where the first palace of the founder of Osogbo was located. The ancient palace with its ornate pillars and elegant designs has remained in its original state for decades, and its sacredness upheld for as long as it stands. A short walk away from the palace will take you to the Osun River, which on a normal day looks just like any other river except for the utter stillness that pervades the atmosphere around it and the occasional calving in the midst of its waters. Otherwise called the Herbs of Osun, because according to its devotees, this calm flowing river transcends ordinary water.
Everything about the Osun Grove revolves around this river. It's like the life of this place. You take it away, the entire place becomes lifeless. This is where the history of the grove actually started from. And every year, thousands of devotees of the Osun goddess converge by the bank of this river, where they pray, believing that all of their problems will be solved by the goddess.
If it is just a mere river, why the crowd? If it is just a mere river, why are people taking this water? I'm using this water in context because here we don't have river, we don't have water. Please, we don't have water. Once you are here, you want agbo, herbs. People that needed one thing or the other comes here to seek for assistance from Osun goddess. Believing, as I said, it's your faith. Believing he or she will do it for them. Whatever is being taken here is herbs, is agbo. If you take it with your faith, be you me, you will be healed. It has been proven beyond reasonable doubt.
While the grove is the site of Osun's most sacred shrine, many Yoruba deities are also depicted here with sculptures that are centuries old and shrines where their devotees worship. Despite the sanctity attached to it, managing the grove is not without its own challenges.
There's no lumber that will come into this site that will not pray will sleep off 72 hours. So that before we wake up, we would have cut down all the trees. We do have poachers, and despite the native laws that we do use to operate, because here you are not supposed to hunt. If you are caught, you'll be taken to the enforcement agency through the authority of Osogbo. And because of developmental pressure, as the town grows, you are bound to see people wanting to build closer to the site, thereby giving you problem. You have the challenge, but God is helping us through that native law. that native law don't cut, don't fish. And aside that, the native law, I will tell you authoritatively, because if all of us goes home, we have night security if they are here. If you eventually decide that you want to catch any fish, you will cook it from now till that kid don't come, it's not done. So you will definitely put yourself into trouble.
Once sparkling and clear and home to a variety of fish, today the sacred river is murky and brown. It is now under constant threat from pollution from waste disposal and other human activities. Another fascinating thing about the grove is this standalone suspended bridge right at the heart of the forest and just above the Osun River, built some 87 years ago. The bridge has no pillar holding it because they say the Osun goddess forbids it.
One of the unique things to see at the Grove is this suspension bridge. We understand it was built in 1935, commissioned in 1936, and the reason why the bridge was constructed was to enable people around here move goods now, especially palm products, from one end of the bridge to the other. And up till this day, the bridge is standing. It's one bridge a lot of tourists who come to this area love to see.
Despite the gradual fading away of celebrated African culture and tradition, the Osun-Osogbo Sacred Grove is one cultural phenomenon that has not only stood the test of time, but also become a reference point for people from this part of the world. The grove remains more or less pristine, leaving visitors with this sense of peace and a connection to the dwellings of an elevated being and the ancient Yoruba tradition.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Ecosphere. I am Mary Kanu. Pollution is a major problem across cities in the world. You know, some of the world's biggest cities deal with pollution, and it's in fact on the environment and health of residents. Now, Lagos State, the largest city in West Africa and the 21st largest city in the world, is no exception, and the resulting effect is the suffocating mix of air pollution, single-use plastic pollution and solid waste in the city's streets, causing respiratory problems, floodings and other illnesses among the locals. Now, it is estimated that at least 30,000 people die every year in Lagos due to pollution. Now, on this edition of the program, we'll be taking a look at ways to solve the problem of pollution and improper disposal of waste in Lagos State.
Waste-littered streets, open defecation, air pollution and the likes are what residents of the commercial nerve center of Nigeria are faced with on a daily basis. In Lagos, environmental pollution is the order of the day. Residents deal with different forms of pollution in the city streets, leaving many with respiratory illnesses. Having lived for many years in this area, the Itire-Surulere local government area of Lagos State, some of the residents say they strongly believe the state government does not care about their living conditions.
This area now has been dirty for so years. When I was in small self, I was seeing all this kind of thing, talk less of now that I've already been gotten hold. And still yet, the area is still like this. You understand? And I want government to come and do here so that it will be okay. So that water will not be flowed everywhere. And why? Even last month, a kid fell inside this water, this canal itself last month, when there was rainy season then, and we do have power to bring it out.
In 2021, the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu said his administration has spent over 2 billion naira on the rehabilitation of dump sites across the state, while another 1 billion naira is being invested to provide the necessary infrastructure for waste management. If these projects have been carried out, residents are yet to witness the results or see an improvement in waste management.
You see all these diseases coming. Now, we're seeing recurrent cases of Lassa fever. Lagos is not spared. Of course, the rats go there, eat, pick jams, transfer to people, and then the same thing now we're having monkeypox. So in reality, if we deal with the challenges of waste alone, I am sure that our health system will be good. Our health itself will be good. Now, when you now get to the waterways, plastic floating, dead animals floating, dead human being floating, microplastic dropping into the water, fish swallowing them, we eating the fish. It's a scandal. It's honestly a scandal. I think the more we put attention to the challenges of the environment and how waste is handled in this part of the world, the better for us. A mega city, 25 million people, still counting, and we cannot get waste disposal right. We're not ready.
The drainage system in Lagos is very bad. We've seen cases where vehicles, humans, and other materials worth billions of naira have been lost or damaged due to drainage. This is one of the things that we are decrying in Lagos. Unfortunately, when this drainage, when this flood water make contact with feces that have been deposited as a result of open defecation, these feces make their way into water bodies, open water bodies like wells, where Lagosians get their drinking water from. Lagosians end up consuming water that has been contaminated with human fecal matter, sometimes fecal matter from animal dungs and all other contaminants. They end up being consumed by humans, and of course these humans come down with several waterborne diseases. Unfortunately, we end up having cases of diarrhea, cases of cholera, hepatitis A and E, and many other food and waterborne diseases. I've practically seen cases where people also have their food stuff, their fruits and other things they sell, edible commodities, fall into gutters, fall into flood water, and they still pick it up and sell it to Lagosians. These are some of the things that are causing the myriads of diseases that we see in Lagos year in, year out. Have you wondered why Lagos is the epicenter of disease infection across the length and breadth of Nigeria? It's because of the poor drainage and the poor disposal of waste. Unfortunately, these are the things that we are experiencing in Lagos. This must stop, and for this to stop, we must improve our sewage disposal, we must improve the disposal of waste materials, and we must limit air pollution as much as possible.
Environmental pollution is not the only challenge residents face as a result of improper waste disposal. The arising issue of climate change, a resulting effect of human activities, has upset the balance of nature.
We have household generated waste, from our consumption and every other thing. We have the industrial waste, the ones that comes out from the big country industries. Then we also have the clinical waste, that the one from hospitals and from clinics, which are very, very sensitive. So the way we handle them, there's a protocol in terms of the way we handle them, their disposal, where we dispose them, how we dispose them, who disposes them. It has its own protocol. Then also we have the other agricultural waste, the ones that comes from animals and others. Now, this waste, how we manage them is very important, because if we do not manage them well, they come back to affect us as humans and all living things that actually live within the environment, both humans and plants, if the waste are not well managed. So obviously, when waste find their ways into places where they shouldn't, like the drainage, like the drains, the drainage lines, of course they block the drainage. And whenever rain comes, of course we have flooding. And in flooding there are different types of flooding. So the one that waste usually creates is the flash flooding. Okay, when the drains are blocked, when waters cannot flow well, so of course the water comes back on the streets and they come back to meet us in our homes, and then we have a flooding which affects people. Our recycling activities is still very poor because there are a lot of opportunities that comes in if you have a good waste management system. But we are still moving. We are not moving, we are actually still crawling. We have not actually started, okay? So a lot of this plastic waste, they are not well disposed. They are not disposed of properly, and they find their way into the drains. Some even find their way into the waters. That life in waters is not even safe anymore. We have had situations where waste was ashore, and when they open up this waste, they see a lot of plastic waste in there, right? So at the same time, within the community, these plastic waste find themselves in all the drainage. I can tell you, in Lagos State today, anywhere you find yourself, just open up the drains. Just open up the drainage system if it's covered. If it's not covered, it's obvious there, And you see a situation where when rain falls, a particular line of the drainage system, you see that waters are not flowing along that line because it's blocked. Okay, people even have this habit of constructing this metal to block this waste from coming into their own part of the road. And so this water comes onto the road and we have a flooding. So they are a major cost, especially the plastic waste.
Well, we'll take a break here, but when we return, the program will continue. Just stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about resolving the issues of improper disposal of waste in Lagos State.
According to the World Health Organization, making the environment healthier can prevent about 13 million deaths yearly and avoid 13% to 37% of the world's disease burden. Lagos State generates 13,000 tons of waste daily, but not all of the waste ends up at designated dump sites. Some end up in canals, drains, and on the road.
Okay, we collect this waste from the household. When you collect this waste, we put them together. Then the process, we try to separate the waste. Okay, ordinary, that's how it should be. You separate the waste. Okay, because there are some of the waste that are recyclable, all right? So you separate them, while the other ones that will be going for total disposal will be the ones that will find themselves their way to the dump sites. Okay, so it's a process before it gets to the dump site. Now, the challenge where the government erred in 3 ways. 1, dump sites are located away from the community. And when these dump sites are located, there should be existing legislations that restrict community development to that area. Okay, if a place is cited as a dump site, it's away from the city, and there's restriction in terms of urban development, because there should be some form of distance between the dump site and where habitable areas. Okay, because from that dump site, one of the worst chemicals that depletes the ozone layer, comes out of the dump site, which is the methane, and it is very, very harmful and dangerous. So dump sites are expected to be sited away from the community. Now, in Lagos, we have a situation where dump sites are located or sited away from the community, but there is no restriction that halts urbanization to that located dump site. So, for example, there's a place called Yanoba. The place was located about 25 years ago, and it was far from city. But there was no restriction in terms of urbanization, urban development. Today, there are houses surrounding that dump site. So, health-wise, the people living around that place are not safe. That's one. The Olusosun dump site at Ojota, when it was located, houses were far from that place. It's a place that in those days, because the methane, when the heat from methane starts coming out, you see smoke coming out. You think they are burning the waste. They are not. It's the methane that is reacting. All right. So you see this is from distance. But today, houses have been built around that place such that people who are living there, they are not safe. The water system is poisoned, is not safe. All right. Then the methane that comes out of that, emits from that place, it's not safe for the humans living around there. So that's why I said the government have erred in that area in terms of restricting, in terms of putting in place enforcement so that people will not build towards that place. So the government have failed in that area. 2, in terms of management of the dump sites, usually in most countries, these things are kind of like privatized to companies who are genuinely involved in environmental activities, to experts who understands this thing, right? The government cannot do it alone. The government is expected to generate, to bring up, put up legislations. You know, they are supposed to be a kind of, they try to stabilize within the private sector and the public sector, right? But they are not expected to manage the dump sites. Professionals who understands the dangers and the kind of harmful chemicals that comes out of that dump site are supposed to manage the dump site. But here, an agency was created, Loma, to manage that dump site, okay? And those dump sites are not well managed. The third aspect where the government is not performing well in that area is the waste collection in itself. Now, we have in Lagos State, the collectors were registered, okay, fine. There were list of items that they must procure before they can be listed as one of the collectors, you know, like the trucks that the crop for with the waste collection trucks and what have you. Now, a lot of them are using trucks that are dilapidated. Some of them have trucks that are not enough to cover the area that has been allotted to them. Okay, and you discover that the collection is poor. Some of these trucks can't even get to the residents of a lot of the people living in the communities. So people have to converge at a particular point. Now, when they dump the waste there, it takes a while before the collectors, the trucks arrive there to pick up the waste. That's another issue, which is another environmental issue. So the collection in itself is poor. And you see some of these trucks collecting this waste. When they even collect the waste on the road, you see it's part of the waste dropping on the road. Okay? And they litter everywhere. So driving to that dump site is another issue. And all these things, they have its, they have their effect, you know, and it has to do with proper waste management system.
In the second quarter of 2022, a global livability index report by the Economist Intelligence Unit ranked Lagos State 171 out of 172 countries in the list of most livable cities in the world, meaning Nigeria's commercial hub and former capital was ranked the world's second least livable urban area and worst city in Africa. While the state government says the continuous attitude of littering by residents results in the deterioration witnessed in the state.
Lagosians are trying also. They come here, they come from their community and come and give us information here. And you go. When you get there, one big man would have taken up, would have built on the drains. And they were afraid to go and talk to him. Even if they talk to him, they will come and report and we'll go. We'll have task force here that recover setbacks and chase some people away from wetlands. You know what wetland does? If you have heavy flooding like this, they settle there. That's where it's supposed to settle. Then when the rain stops, it will now start moving into the lagoon. You will see grass is there again. But that does not mean that you have to go and build there. It's low. There are areas we have in Lagos here are not supposed to build. You're not supposed to live there. Itarabadia is one of them. Shibiri is one of them. There are places in, Ketu there that you're not supposed to live. Yes, you will see greens, but you won't know that underneath that's it's water. So you're not supposed to live there. And so many of them, agility, all of them, you're not supposed to live there. I can't trace it here now. We should call the names. Where you're not supposed to go and live. There are wetlands, low-lying areas, below sea level. But because of scarcity and paucity of houses. People still go there to build. They won't build story building and mansions, you know, but shanties. And when it comes, when the flood comes, they will start shouting, "Yeah, government, come over, we are dying over." They say, "You're not supposed to build here." Government duty is to provide a conducive atmosphere for business to thrive, for people live, to make the city a livable city. That's our duty. If you have a bad road here, they will not call you to come. It's government they will call. We'll go there and check what caused this pothole here. Okay, let's check the drains. Drains is the first place to go. Is it okay? Okay. If it's not okay, get the FAC people to come and clean it up, and then get the works, you know, Ministry of Works to come and patch up the road. Finish. You know. But government cannot handle all the roads in Lagos at the same time and provide all the drains at the same time. Gradually, these things will be in place. Gradually, we don't know. So we are responsive and responsible. We care. Government is established to serve the people. You are serving the people, you are not serving yourself. That's what we do.
Well, that's how much we can take on this edition of the program. Many thanks for staying with us. I am Mary Kanu. Bye-bye.
It's been 42 years now since St. Ambrose's Catholic Secondary School was established by the Catholic Church before it was taken over by the government. Several students have passed through the four walls of the school, just as several administrative staff have come and gone. But the one thing that has remained largely unchanged is the infrastructure and teaching facilities in the school. Year by year, things got worse. Classroom buildings began giving way. The classrooms themselves became inconducive for both teaching and learning. Things were literally in an abject state.
We have been managing teaching even when the rain is falling, the rain will be falling inside the classroom. We cannot abandon teaching. At times we mass students together when there is no conducive classroom. During the tenure of the past principal, Mr. Ogunbadejo Fola. So when he came to the school, he discovered that things will not be going on like this. So many classrooms are leaking, some roofs have even off, some buildings are collapsed. The parents are not able to do anything concerning it. So we be folding and then every year, the roofing has been taking away a lot of money. So he now decided to go spiritual by calling upon God. So every Thursday of every month, we used to gather together, spending 30 minutes, calling upon God. So we look for the names of some old students. We got the name from one of the old students called KK. We wrote their name on the pieces of paper. During the prayer time, we raised the name up. God to compel them to come.
Either by divine intervention or mere coincidence, something happened. One of the old students of the school decided to pay a visit. Multiple award-winning journalist Deji Bademosi graduated from the school 26 years ago as the senior prefect of the 1994 set.
I went there to do a story on the dilapidated state of the school. And there's a project we're actually doing, a project that I'm actually doing, known as Track Nigeria, being supported by the MacArthur Foundation. So the whole idea for me initially was to go there and highlight the dilapidated state of the school so that I could call the attention of the government to the situation there and to see if the government could at least come in there to help address the infrastructural problem there. But you know, when I got there, and because that's the school I actually attended myself, I was touched. And you know, I just felt, rather than just tell the story and wait for the government to do something, that at least I could do something to help. I was really touched, and I decided, well, that at least we could do some renovation. So the whole idea was, okay, go there, renovate, and that was how it started.
An engineer was contracted to commence work on the site, but little did they know that the structure required more than the planned renovation due to the severity of the damage.
When I got there, all the foundation was already above the ground level, meaning that you can even be seeing the foundation footing already outside exposed, which anything can happen. The building can collapse at any time. After opening the space for the column and the second day, you know, the building is weak already, even with the exposure of the foundation, I said. So one side of the classroom gave way immediately.
The only thing we could do to salvage the situation was to pull down the entire building and you know, build a new one. And for me, that was something really huge. It was not something that I had actually planned for, considering the cost implication. So I summoned courage and I said, you know what, okay, you guys go ahead, pull the building down, we'll put up a new building.
It was a tough decision, but certainly worth it. The reconstruction officially kicked off in August 2019 under the direct supervision of one of the alumni of the school.
We left here like 26 years ago, and there was no any kind of maintenance since we left. So I supervised the building right from the scratch to where it is today, all to the glory of God.
As the new building started to take shape, it was hard to ignore the remaining dilapidated blocks of classrooms and abandon them to decay.
As one building was getting completed, I looked at the situation again and I felt, well, we can do another one. So I said, you know what, I looked at my pulse and I said, well, maybe I could just try the second one. And then had no toilet. But then I felt, look, it wouldn't be nice at all to have these new buildings. You have the students there, and then they have no place to go ease themselves, and they have to make use of the bush. Again, I summoned courage, and I said, okay, you know what, let's put up a toilet facility there. And that was how the toilet facility came up. So right there now we have 10 toilets. I then thought, if you have a toilet, how then do you get water to service the toilet? And the school has no borehole. The school has a well that dries up during the dry season. And then, again, not planned for initially. Remember, I started by saying we wanted to do just one building, not planned for. So I said, okay, let's get the borehole.
After the borehole, then came the landscaping and flooring of the school. As the school continued to get a facelift, it was almost unbelievable for staff and students who watched their wish become a reality.
It's a thing of joy to me. But on a daily basis, when I come to school, I have to look down and see the buildings, which is not common, it's one in town. I was made to know that there is no school that is having this type of building. No school. Is it the restroom? Is it the classroom? Is it the offices? Is it the type of furniture there? It is second to none, I must confess, and I'm very happy. In fact, about 5 teachers called me, "Sir, how can I get my transfer to your school?"
And we start everything together. You understand? The foundation, the building, the roofing. For new section now, we are going to have more students.
I felt so proud that at least I could contribute in my own little way to this present development. This project is single-handedly done by one person, a God-sent person, who is not a politician. He doesn't get free money from anywhere. He works hard to get his money, and he's not investing for any profit. Like I asked Deji, because we said, "Bro, what are you even doing this for?" He said, "Maurice, I'm doing it for God and for humanity's sake. That look, I don't need all these students for anything in my life. I don't need them to survive. I don't need them to get to any position. But someday, my children might need them." It's a very good thing. It's really done well. I feel so proud to be part of 94 set. I feel so proud to be a friend to Deji Bademosi for all what he's done. And I feel so proud to be part of this project.
The school, which was once looked down on, has now become a point of reference and top choice for people in the community.
People passing on the road, they were actually branching to see that could a better structure be on this school with what they have been seeing. So look at the design, look at the space that we managed to get what we have, and a very spacious classroom corridor with a staircase that can ease the going and coming of the students. So it's in fact, the facility that is there make it far better.
The only thing that makes me happy is that these students will now learn in a good environment. And this will also enhance their quick grasping of whatever has been taught in school, makes them relax. You are safe. They feel safe now. I think the last time we went there, we saw the building. I couldn't imagine how they could understand what the teacher is saying. But one, you're not sitting well. You're either standing and you're receiving your lecture, or you're sitting with somebody. But with what we have on ground, I think the student will be happy, who learned well in that good environment.
vertical. I myself, this is my school. But now I can boast. This is the school I pass out from. So I'm very, very happy. And I'm using this medium to thank Deji Badmus for what he has done for our school. He rebuilt our school. And God will rebuild his life.
With the junior classes, also referred to as downhill, now wearing a new look, the school authority, in addition to their great show of appreciation, are appealing for the extension of this gesture to the senior secondary classes of the school as well.
Permit me to ask like an Oliver twist. If this structure could continue to the senior section, it will be very good. Not as somebody living in a modern building, coming to a leaking classroom, a classroom where there's no fan, a classroom where there's no, in fact, dusty, stinking, rotten chairs. The chalkboard is even not good. It will not be so good. Permit me to tell you that we don't have laboratories in the school. Every classroom in this school is leaking. It's dusty, smelling. I'm sorry I'm using these words, but if you care to look at them, you will not like them. So will it be for a student that is graduating from junior section to senior section? It will be demoralizing.
For the man who has single-handedly done all of these, his primary goal is to pass a strong message across to the government, old students, and the general public.
My hope and intention is that when the government or the governor, if the governor comes to commission this, that when he comes, he would at least see what, an old student has done. And then that could serve as some kind of motivation for the government now to do something. And not just for the government now to do something, but also important for other old students to take a cue. I mean, those who have, been blessed to at least take a cue. And what I tell people is, I'm not a rich person, I'm not rich. It cost me so much. And but you really don't have to be rich to do certain things. So as an old student, even if it's just a block or two you're able to contribute, that would go a long way. And also very important is that, people have always said journalists always take, they don't give. And this is to disprove that journalists we don't just report situations. So sometimes, journalism could make you do some very unexpected things. Do I plan to do more in the future? Yes, by the special grace of God, because to some extent, we are actually the government. So whatever, as individuals, whether individuals or collectives, not in government, whatever it is we can do to help make our society better, we should do it.
Many thanks for staying with us on the newsroom. I am Folashade Ogurinde. The Kaduna State Governor-elect Ubasani and his deputy Hadiza Balarabe have received their certificates of return from the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) on Friday. The electoral umpire also gave certificates of return to elected members of the State House of Assembly as the winners of the March 18 election. Speaking after receiving his certificate of return, the governor-elect appealed to those who contested against him in the election to join hands with him towards moving the state forward.
At this juncture, I would like to commend the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) for their dedication and commitment in the discharge of their duties. I would also like to appreciate the security agencies for maintaining law and order in the state during the elections. I wish to invite my fellow contestants to join hands with me in moving Kaduna State to a greater height.
The Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, has expressed confidence in the combat readiness and operational posture of Operation Hadinkai, especially in the ongoing counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency operations in the northeast region of Nigeria. Speaking during the visit, General Irabo commended the efforts of the theatre commander and the entire officers and men of Operation Hadinkai in restoring adequate peace and normalcy to the northeast region. He also urged them to remain resolute and committed in neutralizing the terrorist element of Boko Haram and Islamic State of West African Province. The Taraba State chapter of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has declared a total comprehensive and indefinite strike action. This follows permission by the ASU National to the state branch to embark on the strike action to press home its demands. Arising from a Congress meeting, the union insists that the rationale behind the action is Indian government's failure to pay earned academic allowances, promotion arrears, fractional payment of salaries to staff, as well as unsettled staff pension and gratuity scheme. The White House says President Joe Biden does not plan to veto a GOP-sponsored resolution that would terminate the COVID emergency declared in 2020. The measure would terminate the national emergency that former President Donald Trump declared in March 2020 at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA, says its total assets has grown to 1.02 trillion naira at the close of the financial year, which ended December 2022. According to its 2022 audited result released on Thursday, the investment institution has said that the asset growth indicates a 10.5% increase from the 9.7 billion naira recorded in 2021. However, the institution noted its total comprehensive income stood at 96.96 billion naira in 2022, representing a decline of 34% compared to 147 billion in 2021. The U.S. Department of Justice has filed a lawsuit against freight train giant Norfolk Southern over its 3rd February train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. The lawsuit reportedly seeks damages for alleged Clean Water Act violations. The derailment of 38 cars, including 11 carrying hazardous materials, led to the release of over 1 million gallons of hazardous materials in Ohio. On the sporting scene, the International Olympic Committee (IOC) has faced severe backlash over the readmission of Ukraine and Belarus athletes into global sports events. The German Olympic Sports Confederation lawyer Patricia Wojta said it unfortunately that neither the International Olympic Committee (IOC) nor United Nations Special Rapporteur in Cultural Rights had not addressed protecting the rights of Ukraine's athletes. And that's it from the newsroom. Many thanks for watching. I am Folashade Ogurinde. Bye for now.
Can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world. A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues. Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the president of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world. A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Let's observe a minute's silence for Nigerians who lost their lives during the recently concluded national election. May they find eternal rest in the bosom of their maker. Crazy demonstration of them all crazy. Followers of our political event will be watching with disbelief in year 2023 the unnecessary ethnic squabbles between the Igbos and Yorubas over the events that happened during the presidential and governorship election in Lagos. While these events are not new, as the political fight between the 3 major ethnic tribes in Nigeria dates back to pre-colonial era. Some have, however, argued that what happened in Lagos on the 25th was impunity taken too far. Remember the Awolowo-Nnamdi Azikiwe political fight over who controls the Western region in 1953? The allegation of betrayal levied against each other by the Yorubas and Igbos during the Nigerian Civil War. And then lastly, not too long ago, the Lagos Lagoon threat to the Igbos by the Oba of Lagos in 2015. So not be today these people they fight over politics and control. Even the insult and acrimony between the Yorubas and Igbo, Christians and Muslims on my law school class platform and other platforms since Tinubu and Obi became their different party flag bearer is enough to cause Third World War. The war was not only visible on WhatsApp, even Twitter and other social Let's observe a minute's silence for Nigerians who lost their lives during the recently concluded national election. May they find eternal rest in the bosom of their Maker. Crazy demonstration of them all crazy. Followers of our political event will be watching with disbelief in year 2023 the unnecessary ethnic squabbles between the Igbos and Yorubas over the events that happened during the presidential and governorship election in Lagos. While these events are not new, as the political fight between the three major ethnic tribes in Nigeria dates back to pre-colonial era, some have, however, argued that what happened in Lagos on the 25th was impunity taken too far. Remember the Awolowo-Nnamdi Azikiwe political fight over who controls the Western region in 1953? The allegation of betrayal levied against each other by the Yorubas and Igbos during the Nigerian Civil War. And then lastly, not too long ago, the Lagos Lagoon threat to the Igbos by the Oba of Lagos in 2015. So not be today, these people, they fight over politics and control. Even the insult and acrimony between the Yorubas and Igbo, Christians and Muslims, on my law school class platform and other platforms since Tinubu and Obi became their different party flag bearer is enough to cause Third World War. The war was not only visible on WhatsApp, even Twitter and other social media platforms became a breeding ground for spewing and spreading ethnic, religious bile, insult, hatred, intimidation, accusation and counter-accusation as daily missiles and tools in the hands of various online warriors. If you thought Buhari's online warrior of 2015 were unruly, then you never see anything. It was as if we were preparing for war. While I condemn violence or intimidation anywhere, especially voter suppression, but if I may ask, how do we spread such hatred, bitterness, and acrimony amongst ourselves before election and expect a peaceful and hitch-free election devoid of the same hate and violence? Sometimes I retire for us. But really, must we rig election or conduct election like war? Despite all the promises made to us by INEC, yet they reduce the bar. So the politicians, so govern Nigeria and by force. The Yorubas today are complaining that Igbos called Lagos a no man's land. We all know that Lagos is not a no man's land as it belongs to the Yorubas. But why will the Yorubas allow chaos, heap of filth, thuggery, and street urchins to run the city, harass motorists, commuters, even collect revenue as though it is a no man's land, and yet expect people not to treat Lagos like no man's land? The Igbos are complaining about voter suppression in Lagos, but they forgot conveniently the violence, harassment, sit at home, harassing, burning of INEC offices and voters' intimidation and suppression that happened in the East during the recently election, even in Aba and Imo, to the extent that unknown gunmen were used to harass and kill perceived political opponents and settle political scores. Even a supporter of an opposing political party was quoted to have queried the paternity of the governorship candidate of Enugu State, claiming his forefathers are from Ebonyi. Yet we didn't hear the Igbos complain or fight or raise their voice against this. Abi, if it be Igbo, it is okay. We are not supposed to condemn it. You believe Tinubu and Atiku bought the presidential ticket of their parties, but believe, say, Obi, when joined Labour Party less than a month before the primaries, no give shishi to get your own ticket. Your hypocrisy is legendary. When Festus Keyamo SCN called for the investigation of the Labour Party vice presidential candidate over allegation of making inciting statement, did he, Festus, suddenly forget the inciting statement made by Bayo Ononuga and MC Oluoma? What if Festus do or talk then? Abi DSS know they exist when they make those inciting statements. Also, those when condemn Festus for making such call and called out MC Oluoma and Bayo Ononuga, why didn't they also call out Dati when he made those statements? Shouldn't Dati, someone who wants to be the vice president of Nigeria, also know that once you submit your grievance to a constitutional process of resolving same, you should allow that process run without threats? You should remember that fire and brimstone, no they help anybody. Nobody get monopoly of violence. Chibike Amechi is alleging bias against INEC chairman Mahmoud Yakubu in 2023. But yet in 2019, Chibike Amechi as DG campaign, Buhari campaign organization celebrated the same INEC chairman who claimed INEC had a server before the election, but only to capitulate after the election that INEC had no server. Selective amnesia, they worry all of us. Olisa Gbakoba say him lose faith in the judiciary to dispense justice. It was in his time as NBA president that Kayode Esho, Justice of the Supreme Court of blessed memory, said senior advocates were the conveyor belt of the cash for bribing judges. What did him do then? When it's convenient, they will get faith. When it is not convenient, they will lose faith. I beg you, we all collectively destroy and spoil and compromise our institution. I agree that if you add all the antecedents of corruption against the judiciary in Nigeria, it is very tempting to pronounce every judge or CJN or Nigerians guilty of corruption. But to allow a social media mob attack on the CJN because of some baseless, unsubstantiated accusation is the height of impunity. But in all, I'm not sorry for APC and the president-elect. After all, they did the same